Okay, now we will continue with our discussion of this transformative period. Okay, so as you can see, these transformative events also resulted in a polarization between two groups, two social groups. On the one hand, we find the conservatives, and on the other hand, we find the modernists. So, these transformative events led to the emergence of these two clashing groups in the society. This polarization was evident in the early days of the Turkish new modern Turkish state, and these two groups were represented by Atatürk on the one side, on the side of the modernists, and the Sultan on the other side for the conservatists. Okay, so the modernists focused on secularism, republicanism, and westernization. They were mainly founded within this national independence group in Anatolia. On the other side, there were the conservatives, and they aimed to preserve the Islamic and traditional aspects of the empire. As we can see, this polarization in the early years of the new modern Turkish state still continues today. Okay, so let's move on to the other political events in this period. So, after the First World War and after the Treaty of Sevres, Greece invaded Anatolia. Greece made this movement with the encouragement of the Allied powers. And the aim of Greece was to expand its territory at the expense of the defeated Ottoman Empire. So, as a result of this invasion, a war was fought between the Greek forces and the nationalist Turkish forces. The nationalist Turkish forces were led by Atatürk. And this war continued for 3 years, and the result of this war was the success of the Turkish forces, and as a result, they pushed the Greek army out of Anatolia, and as a result, there was the success of these nationalist forces. Okay, this war provided a momentum in the struggle for an independent and sovereign Turkish state. Okay, so in 1922 there was another important political uh, event um, for the new modern state. This was the Mudanya Agreement that was signed on 11th of October 1922. Mudanya Armistice was signed between Turkey, France, Britain, and Italy. The major significance of this armistice was that it ended the hostilities between the Greek and Turkish forces. Okay, so what is the important provisions of this armistice? So this armistice stipulated the withdrawal of Greek troops from Anatolia. It also stipulated the demilitarization of the Straits and also an establishment of a neutral zone in eastern Thrace. Okay, so what is the significance of the Mudanya armistice? As we have seen, the Greek army invaded Anatolia, the western part of Anatolia, as a result of the encouragement of the Allied powers. So, Mudanya armistice marked the end of the Greek-Turkish War, and it opened a way for a new peace treaty to replace the Treaty of Sevres. Okay, in 1922 we find one more major political event. This is the abolishment of the Sultanate. Okay, so we can see that starting from 1921, nationalist forces gained momentum in Anatolia. We have seen the major political events for this success or enabling this success. Therefore, the Grand National Assembly finally voted to abolish the Ottoman Sultanate on the 1st of November 1922. With this decision, the Sultanate was abolished after 600 years of Ottoman Empire. What is the significance of this decision? Certainly, the abolishment of the Sultanate was a watershed moment, was a completely new defining moment in Turkish history. This decision marked the end of the Ottoman Empire, the final end of the Ottoman Empire, and the beginning of a transition towards a modern, secular, and a democratic Republic of Turkey. Now we will move on to another significant event, a political event during this period. This is the Lausanne Peace Treaty. We mentioned Lausanne Peace Treaty previously in our discussion of the historical chronology of events in this period. Now we will look at the significance of the provisions of the Lausanne Peace Treaty. Okay, so Lausanne Peace Treaty was negotiated between the Allied forces and the Turkish nationalists from 1922 until 1923. So, as a result, when this agreement was signed, it replaced the Treaty of Sevres. So, what are the key provisions of the Lausanne Peace Treaty? Firstly, as we said before, it recognized the sovereignty and the new borders of the new modern Turkish state. Okay, it also referred to the control of the straits, the minority rights, and also the settlement of refugees. Therefore, this treaty signifies the international recognition of the new Republic of Turkey and the conclusion of the Turkish War of Independence. So, with this treaty, there was the new way opened for the establishment of a Republic of Turkey on 29th of October 1923. Okay, so what are the key debates in the context of the Lausanne Peace Treaty? Okay, so as we said before, this treaty marks a turning point in Turkish history. Okay, so let's examine and elaborate the key points and debates related to the Lausanne Peace Treaty. Okay, let's first of all focus on the representation of Turkey, who represented the modern state. Secondly, let's focus on the resolution of disputes between the two negotiating parties, and then let's refer to the internal disagreements within the National Assembly. So these three important discussions marked the debates around Lausanne Peace Treaty. First of all, Turkey's delegation, as you know, was led by İsmet İnönü. İsmet İnönü was a key figure in the nationalist movement in Anatolia. So, this representation marks a significant departure from the Sultan's government because previously Sultan's government represented the Ottoman Empire in all international negotiations. However, in this one, Turkey was represented by İsmet İnönü as a representative of the nationalist forces in Anatolia. Okay, this presence of the national delegation signifies a growing legitimacy for the nationalist government. So, with this treaty, with this representation, we also see that the nationalist movement acquired international recognition. This also signifies a diminishing influence of the Ottoman Empire in terms of international treaties. Okay, this is a very important decision that is a major political move in the context of Lausanne Peace Treaty. Secondly, we need to explain the resolution of disputes between the Allied powers and the Turkish modern state. Okay. As we said before, Lausanne Peace Treaty resolved these major disputes between Turkey and the Allied powers. These dispute points were mainly the territorial issues and the treatment of minority populations. Okay, regarding these disputes, Lausanne Peace Treaty provided an exchange of populations between Greece and Turkey. This was a historical event. This was a major event for Turkish society because this event involved the compulsory migration of nearly 2 million people. These people included the Greek Orthodox Christians living in Turkey and the Muslims living in Greece. So these two social groups were exchanged as a result of this agreement. The aim of this exchange of populations was to reduce ethnic tensions and to create more homogeneous nation state on both sides. Okay, this is the second important outcome of the Lausanne Peace Treaty. Let's look at to the third important outcome. This is the demilitarization of the Turkish Straits. Okay, this is also a very contested dispute, and it is also discussed even in today's politics. So, the treaty also addressed the contentious issue of the Turkish Straits. When we are talking about Turkish Straits, this includes both the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles. These two straits hold a strategic importance both for the regional and global powers. That's why demilitarization of this zone is significant both regionally and globally. So, as a result of this treaty, the straits were demilitarized, and an international regime was established in order to ensure freedom of navigation and passage for all nations from the straits. Good. Okay, so we have discussed the three major points introduced by the Lausanne Peace Treaty, and now we will talk about the evolution of capitulations. Okay, so this is an important economic development for the new modern state because the Lausanne Peace Treaty abolished all these capitulations. As you remember, these capitulations provided economic and legal privileges to European powers. These capitulations were provided by the Ottoman Empire to the European powers. This evolution of capitulations marked a significant step towards asserting Turkish sovereignty. So we are discussing the sovereignty principle as a foundational clause for the new modern state, and the Lausanne Peace Treaty recognized this principle and it provided the end of the capitulations, which signifies a great economic development for the new modern state. Okay. Let's discuss another important provision by the Lausanne Peace Treaty. This is the withdrawal of foreign troops. Okay. So, Lausanne Peace Treaty mandated the withdrawal of all foreign troops from Turkish territory. This signifies the end of foreign occupation. That's why it also adds importance to the sovereignty and the independence of the new modern state. We have already talked about that Lausanne Peace Treaty provided the new borders of the modern state. So, the Lausanne Peace Treaty is also significant for providing the modern borders of Turkey. This includes the territories of Anatolia, Eastern Thrace, and Istanbul. Okay, so this treaty is significant in demarcating the borders of the new modern republic. However, although there were so many benefits of this benefits provided by this treaty for the sovereignty, for the independence of the new state, there were still internal debates within the National Assembly. So, the conclusion of the Lausanne Peace Treaty actually started an intense debate within the National Assembly because the members of the parliament were concerned over the future and the political direction of the new modern state. Okay, in terms of this debate within the National Assembly, one of the central questions was whether the new regime should retain the Islamic institution of the Caliphate or adopt a strictly secular modern of governance. This was the major contentious debate in the National Assembly. So, What followed, or which decision followed this debate? In March 1924, we find the abolishment of the caliphate. Okay, so let's talk about the context, the significance, and the implications of this abolishment. As you can see, the abolishment of the caliphate in March 1924 marks a significant turning point in the history of the Republic of Turkey, because this move signals the end of an important Islamic institution and the commitment of the new Turkish state to secularism. Okay. So you can see that the establishment of the Republic of Turkey was founded upon the sovereignty, independence, and secularism principles. Therefore, at the end of the Lausanne Peace Treaty, the question of the abolishment of the caliphate remained as the only divisive issue in the National Assembly. It was a divisive issue within the politics because the caliphate represented the spiritual and political leadership of the Muslim world. Therefore, um, for conservatives, it was an indispensable part of the country. However, for the modernists, it was incompatible with the secular and the modern state. This debate dominated the National Assembly, and in March 1924, Atatürk and the Republican People's Party held a majority in the assembly, and they decided to abolish the caliphate. This decision was certainly influenced by the belief that this institution was an obstacle to modernization. Therefore, because they believed in the modernization and westernization of the new modern state, then they wanted to end the political instability, and they wanted to end the system of caliphate. Okay, so the abolishment of caliphate had far-reaching implications for Turkish politics and for the Muslim world as well. Firstly, it marked a definitive break from the Islamic traditions of the Ottoman Empire. As you can see, Ottoman Empire was founded upon these principles. Therefore, the abolishment of the caliphate represents the consolidation of secularism, and also it became the guiding principle of the new modern state. However, the decision to abolish the caliphate was met with mixed reactions in the Muslim world. While some people outside the borders of Turkey saw this development as a new step or as a necessary step towards modernization, other people, mainly the critics of this move, perceive this as an abandonment of a vital Islamic institution. So, as you can see, there were these two rival perceptions towards the status of caliphate. So, what are the implications of this decision? As you can see, that was a major decision to abolish a centuries long institution. So, it provided an immediate and also long term consequences for Turkish politics. Firstly, the immediate consequences were that it certainly sparked a series of protests and uprisings by the conservative people. These conservative people were opposed to the establishment of a new secular regime. So, at first, in the immediate aftermath of this decision, there were a ideological clash between the conservatists and modernists because they both represent different perceptions of the world, different descriptions of the political regime. In the long term, the decision to abolish the caliphate contributed to the polarization of Turkish society. So this polarization continued between the secularists and the religious conservatives, and it persisted throughout several decades in Turkish history, and it continued to shape the country's political landscape. So the abolishment of caliphate did not only have consequences for the internal debates and politics within the new Turkish state, but it also had overreaching effects for the Muslim world. Previously, Muslim world had a central spiritual and a political authority in Ottoman Empire. So this spiritual authority or the central figure led to the consolidation of the Muslim world under one leadership. However, with the abolishment of caliphate, uh, there emerged a fragmentation in the Muslim world. This fragmentation contributed to the rise of various religious movements and various different ideologies. So they provided different representations of the interests of the Muslim people. Okay, so these are the far reaching consequences of this political decision. Okay, so far we have summarized um turning points or transformative events at the end of the or at the fall of the Ottoman Empire and in the beginning of the construction or foundation of the new modern state. We have discussed and explained several important turning points in this regard. Okay, now we will continue with another. Okay, now we will continue with our discussion of this transformative. All right, so in this discussion, we will refer to the following years of the new modern state. Okay, we talked about the transformation from the empire, from the regime of monarchy towards the modern, Western, and a secular new state. All right, so in this discussion, we will refer to the following years of the new modern state. Okay. We talked about the transformation from the empire, from the regime of monarchy towards the modern, Western, and a secular new state. And we talked about the turning points that realized this successful transformation. Now we will examine the single party period in the early years of the Republic of Turkey. In this context, we will focus on the dominance of the People's Republican Party in politics, and we will try to explain the emergence of opposition parties. So, in this context, we will discuss the relevance and significance of these political developments in shaping Turkey's new political landscape. Okay, so first of all, let's explain the single party period with a reference to the People's Republican Party. Okay, so as we know, the single party period in Turkey starts with the establishment of the republic in 1923, and it continued until the introduction of multi-party democracy in 1946. So, during this long period, the People's Republican Party held a monopoly on political power in new state. So the People's Republican Party played a crucial role in implementing the political, social, and economic reforms in this period. These reforms were very important because they provided a modern Turkey, and they established a secular and democratic state. So the single party rule allowed the new modern state to enact these reforms easily and quickly, because in this context there was a minimal opposition to these reforms. So this minimal opposition also provided the consolidation of the new regime's authority. Okay, so let's discuss the formation of the opposition parties in this period. Okay, so the first one, the Progressive Republican Party, was founded in November 1924 as the first opposition party. We in Turkish we call the Progressive Republican Party as Terakkiperver Cumhuriyet Fıkrası. Fırkası. Okay, this party was led by another nationalist figure, Kazım Karabekir and Rauf Orbay. So this party was a major alternative to the People's Republican Party. Okay, so what is the political approach of the Progressive Republican Party? What was the main political framework or political ideology of this party? The Progressive Republican Party mainly advocated a more gradual approach to modernization and to a greater political pluralism. So this party called for the preservation of some of the traditional values and institutions, and by this way they tried to maintain a gradual transformation. Okay, what is the importance of this approach? What is the importance of this gradual approach? Why was it necessary under those terms, under those historical terms? So, the Progressive Republican Party existed for a very short time from 1924 until 1925, but this short period demonstrated that there was a growing desire for an alternative voice in the politics. Okay, so this represented a more inclusive political process for other different ideas. However, as you know, in 1925, this political party was banned from politics following the Sheikh Said rebellion. So the government opposed the Progressive Republican Party of supporting this rebellion, and this marked a setback for transformation into political pluralism in Turkish politics. Okay, this was the first opposition party in Turkish politics, and the second opposition party in Turkish politics was the Liberal Republican Party. The Liberal Republican Party was established in August 1930 by Ali Fethi Okyar. Ali Fethi Okyar was a close associate of Atatürk. So this party was formed with Atatürk's blessing. Actually, this party was a new attempt to introduce a controlled political competition in Turkish politics. So, emergence of this party served as a test of the multi-party system for a second time. We know this Liberal Republican Party under the Turkish name of Serbest Cumhuriyet Fırkası. Okay, so what is the ideology of this party? What are the ideological backgrounds of this party? The Liberal Republican Party focused on mainly promoting liberal economic policies, as its name also suggests. So they supported private enterprise, and they advocated a more decentralized administration. The party also called of relaxation of some of the secularist policies. Why this party is important for Turkish politics? Okay, this party's existence demonstrated the challenges of introducing political pluralism in Turkish politics. So, during the single party period, it was not easy to directly move towards this political pluralism in Turkish politics. Therefore, this party was also disbanded in 1930 as a result of internal divisions. There were also concerns over growing social unrest. So, the disbanding of this political party, or the short-lived life of this political party, further solidified the People's Republican Party's monopoly on power. As a result of as a result of the fate of these two opposition parties, the emergence of a genuine multi-party system in Turkish politics had to wait. Okay. Okay, so we talked about the single party rule, we talked about the trials of the multi party system. Now we need to talk about the creation of a nation state. Okay, so creation of a nation state was founded upon an ethnically homogeneous population. If you have taken courses on identity or nationality or nationalism, you must have heard of Adam Smith. Oh, sorry. You must have heard of Benedict Anderson, Anthony Smith, uh, Hutchinson, and other theorists, Ernest Gellner, and other theorists. Okay, so all these theorists, all these scholars of national identity and nationalism underlines that mm, nationalist tendencies are founded upon certain shared principles. These are common history, a common territory, common ancestry, common religion, common language, common culture. The list goes on like this. And we find that the creation of nation states are based upon these ethnically homogeneous populations. So in Western Europe, we found in 19th century increased calls for these nation states. Also, uh, with the end of the colonialist period, we also find the same tendencies in Asia and in Africa. And after this colonialism, the nations or the ethnic populations of Africa and Asia also struggled for their own independence in order to create their own nation states. Therefore, we find a similar tendency in Anatolia as well. So there was a creation of a nation state and a pursuit of an ethnically homogeneous population in the early period of Republic of Turkey. However, this creation of a nation state around this homogeneous population, around this ethnically homogeneous population, was problematic because, as you know, the Ottoman Empire included many different ethnicities, many different languages, religions, or cultures. Therefore, from such an empire, including different ethnic forms, including different backgrounds, it was difficult to create a nation state around an ethnically, culturally homogeneous population. Therefore, this attempt was challenged by certain uprisings. One of them was the Kurdish revolt in 1925, and the other and it was led by Sheikh Said, and it challenged the creation of this nation state. Okay, so the new established Republic of Turkey aimed to create such a modern, secular, and a unified nation state. However, this project was challenging in such a country full of different backgrounds. So the Turkish government pursued many policies to promote homogeneity and national unity for these